This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. President Trump will be addressing the nation from the Rose Garden at 9 a.m. Chicago time.
And you can hear it here. We'll have it for you.
He'll be explaining ostensibly why he's going to sign the bipartisan compromise on border security funding that has been leveled up to his desk, and also reportedly declare a national emergency for the purposes of commandeering other funds for border security. So said Mitch McConnell on the Senate floor yesterday.
I've just had an opportunity to speak with President Trump, and he, I would say to all my colleagues, has indicated he's prepared to sign the bill. He will also be issuing a national emergency declaration at the same time. And I've indicated to him that I'm going to support the national emergency declaration. So for all of my colleagues, the president will sign the bill.
Okay, so that's happening. Pelosi responding. She's not indicating yet whether they will seek legal action. She is indicating, though, that this precedent is dangerous.
There's nothing Chicago.
Did I ever say I was filing a legal challenge?
You said Democrats.
I may. That's an option, and we'll review our options. But it's important to note that when the president declares this emergency, first of all, it's not an emergency. What's happening at the border? It's a humanitarian challenge to the president has tried to sell a bill of goods to America. But putting that aside, just in terms of the president making an end run around Congress, here he said, let us respect what the committee will do, and then walks away from it.
Well, he respected what the committee will do. He's going to sign it, but he's going to offer a little kicker too.
And she went on to say, the real emergency, because it's the anniversary of the Parkland shooting, that gun violence should be a national emergency.
Yeah, and it's something that some conservatives and other stock and trade Republicans have suggested. Well, this is a dangerous precedent setting. Not really. 31 national emergencies declared in the last 3 decades.
Yeah.
A range of topics.
Yeah, well, President Obama declared a national emergency to stop the deportation of Dreamers' parents. Remember that? That was the last one we had. Was that really a national emergency?
Well, number 2, the crime stats that President Trump read off provided to him by Secretary Nielsen earlier in the week. Boy, they certainly suggest something. You don't want to call it a national emergency. Okay, 3,000 murders and 10,000 sexual assaults and on up with respect to the tens of thousands of violent crimes, Class X felonies committed by people here illegally. That's something. That's a challenge. It's an issue. It's a law enforcement problem. Is it a national emergency? Oh, I don't know. And so the president is going to take what he could get from Congress, and he's going to take what he can get through the use of his executive power. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined again by Mark Morgan. He's a former FBI agent. He was also the Customs and Border Protection chief under President Obama. Mark, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me on.
What did you think of, what do you think of both parts of this, I suppose? Take them in whichever order you want. The deal that the president is going to sign and the decision he's made to exercise his national emergency powers.
Yeah, so first, real quick, let me address the current Speaker of the House comments that it's not emergency. You both just hit it. I mean, look at the crime stats, and I'm not going to repeat them. You just went down, and there's a heck of a lot more. We could do 20 minutes just on all the stats that are fact and hyperbole. Look at the current flow of those individuals seeking asylum. Right now, we're averaging 60,000 a month. Monday of just this week, 2,000 in one day. So far this year, 62 caravans of 100 or more. They had 13 of all last year, and she's going to say that this is not a crisis. It's absolutely unbelievable, misleading the people. Now, let's take this bill, and I don't say this easily. This bill is horrible. There's some good things in the bill, but there's some significant landmines in this bill. So, right, they talk about, so now Congress in this bill tells the Border Patrol, the experts, where they need the wall, what type of wall, and how they can build it. In the areas in the Texas area, the areas where they need it, one of the areas they need it the most, they're forcing them that they have to deal with local government before they can build it. And, oh, by the way, we know that the local government, because they've already expressed their opinions, they're against the barrier. So that will result in the rest of this fiscal year of no barrier being built. Then in Section 232A, they talk about that there's 5 areas that they can't build a barrier, including the National Butterfly Center. Not making it up. It's in the bill.
And
they cannot build.
And
right?
also, besides the National Butterfly Center, I've heard of that. There's people's where the wall would go through their backyard. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, and so the issue is, and that's not new. So the 654 miles of barrier that have been built, there's always those challenges. But my response is they just leveled a landmark restaurant here where I live, the Globe and Laura, through eminent domain to build an extra wide road. I mean, but yet people are not supporting it when we have 4,000 murders, 100,000 assaults, 30,000 sexual. I mean, it's 6,000 gang members deported in the last 2 years, and they're worried about taking a little bit of land, right, for our national security. I mean, by saying there's 5 significant areas where you can't build a wall at all. I mean, that's creating a sanctuary border. I mean, you might as well put a sign to the cartels that says, come here, come through here. And they will, and they've already do. If you look at some of those national parks that are there, they're already going through and they're trashing those parks. Just talk to the people who support those areas. And the last thing I'll say is Section 224. This is the biggest issue of all, is that they're actually creating a new kind of amnesty. They are saying that ICE, if an individual that's here sponsors an unaccompanied minor, this bill says that ICE cannot do their job. ICE cannot touch them. Even if that sponsor is here illegally, and the stats will show that most sponsors of unaccompanied minors are here illegally, this bill says that ICE cannot touch them. And it's not just a sponsor, but it's a potential sponsor. It's anybody that lives in the household of a sponsor. This is truly unbelievable. It creates amnesty.
So then, what would you advise the president? Would you advise him to not sign this, to veto this, and just to declare a national emergency, or if in the interests of politics, and you can't eliminate politics from the consideration, it's always part of it, go ahead and sign it and make up for the deficiencies, and some of which you've described, through your national emergency powers and the other resources you can access?
Yeah, so I think that's the question. That's a great question. So, from my perspective, is that these landmines that are in this current bill are so significant, he shouldn't sign this bill. He should do a CR and go back to Congress and say sections 231, 232A, and 224, you got to fix. You got to eliminate those sections. You eliminate those sections, re-sign it. He signs the bill then, and then he declares a national emergency.
But by the way, just getting your reaction too, just in terms of what he's up against. Now, you heard from Pelosi, but Beto O'Rourke yesterday asked the obvious questions. If walls are immoral, should we take down the border barriers? Should we take down the wall in El Paso? And you know what he said? Yes.
Oh, he did.
He did.
I'm sure
yes.
Has he ever been to El Paso? I lived
He
in
lives in El Paso.
Well, I know.
I mean,
well, still.
So, but I mean, Mark, react to that. That's what the president's dealing with.
So that's exactly right, and you phrased it perfectly. That's what he's dealing with, right? So they are absolutely experts that have dedicated, and this isn't hyperbole either. Experts that have dedicated their lives to defending the borders and protecting this country. Border Patrol agents, 128, have died doing that, and they have learned through the decades of their blood, sweat, and tears of what it needs to secure the borders. They've told Congress what they need, and Congress has said, nope, we reject you. And not only do they reject you, then you have congressmen like that just says just crazy, irresponsible, reckless, false statements. And it's beyond frustrating. And it's ironic because how about 2006 when both sides of the aisle passed the Secure Fence Act that led to the 654 miles being built? 2013, Congress and the Senate passed a bipartisan bill that had $8 billion for a wall. And oh, by the way, even though this bill is horrible, it still has 1.3 miles of barrier. What is it? What is it for the Democratic Party? Either it's immoral, ineffective, or it's not.
Yeah, they're always trying to get votes. As a former U.S. Border Patrol chief, what is the worst thing that you've seen on the job?
So guys, great question. So really it's two sides, and this is why the president is accurate when he says this is both a humanitarian and national security incident, right? And so because you've got two different things going on, they're equally both crisis. So on the humanitarian side, one of the things that I will never forget, I will take to my grave, is I'm in RGV, by the way, the area that they're limiting and say that you've got to talk to locals in areas where you can't build. I'm in that area, and I see a 6-year-old girl that's standing there as a Border Patrol agent knelt down talking to her, trying to calm her. This 6-year-old girl, her parents had given her to the coyotes to make the 1,000-mile journey, being subjected to who know what, so she could come to the United States. And they did that. They took that risk because of our broken laws, because they knew that she set one foot on American soil, she would be allowed into the United States, never to be heard from again. That moment, I teared up seeing that 6-year-old girl and thinking about, we could fix this. Congress could fix this, but they refused to. On the national security side, I watched. I watched actually participate as an observer an operation where coyotes, the cartels had sent coyotes miles into the United States in some really tough terrain, and they had created an observation post. And why do you think they did that? So they could watch Border Patrol, and they're sophisticated and they have communications, so they could watch Border Patrol, and as they're engaged in one area, they would radio to the coyotes so that drugs and bad people could come in around the Border Patrol agents. Happens every day, all day, because 60% of our border is porous and open.
He is Mark Morgan, former FBI special agent and former Customs and Border Protection chief under President Obama. Mark, thanks as always for joining us, providing your expertise. Appreciate it.